All right, have not fans. Hope you all are doing well. This will be my review for season 8, episode 7, A Working Girl. And if you were on Twitter last night with me, and if you tune into the live stream I did on YouTube afterwards, you know that I really enjoyed this episode. I mean, I said last week's episode was pretty good, and it was pretty decent. And that one episode alone, episode 6 from season 8, was better than anything from season 7. But this episode here, A Working Girl, took it to the next level. I mean, like they say, lucky 7 it is. This was episode 7, and this episode was easily better than anything season 7 presented to us last year in 2020. So this particular episode, after looking through, I'm bouncing between a score of an 8 or a 9. I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10, but it is very close. And based on the preview for next week, which I honestly recorded the trailer breakdown before this video, so make sure you check that out as well. And go ahead and like this video, hit the thumbs up button, hit the bell notification icon and select all. That way, you are notified whenever I go live and whatnot, because just a heads up, I might just do DVD giveaways from now on during live streams, because that seems to be pretty damn efficient. That doesn't mean I won't do any on Instagram, but I feel like I want to do like the bigger giveaways here on YouTube. Follow me on my social media platforms. Links are in the description below. And of course, subscribe. So just another quick heads up. I promise I'll get into the review. I said this in my other video, but during the live stream last night, I got a couple of very generous donations on Cash App. So I'm going to utilize that money later today. I'm going to transfer that money to my bank account, and then I'll go to PayPal and print out the shipping label. So for the winners of my last DVD giveaway, I'm going to get all that stuff squared out today. And I have a lot of eBay stuff to get ready for shipping. So no later than the end of this week, your items will be in the mail. So be on the lookout for that sometime next week. So the episode started off a little bit slow. It wasn't bad. It was just a little slow because we got Vinny and Wyatt in the hospital. And I don't really need to break the scene down. First of all, Vinny, I did like the leather jacket. That was pretty cool. I did covet that jacket. It's just the same old back and forth. I'm sorry, man. What do I got to do? You leave me alone. Well, this scar I got? It's like, well, we don't even see. I feel like the makeup artists don't even put the scar on anymore, because we never even do notable close-ups of it. Because, usually Vinny kind of has like higher collar shirts on, or, a jacket to kind of cover up his neck. And it's just ridiculous at this point, because I get it. Like, he was the one who stabbed, so he doesn't give a damn about the justifications of it. Because remember, Vinny was going to kill Wyatt at that given point in time at the bar, because at this point Candace had taken all of Wyatt's money, so he didn't have the money to afford the drugs that he got high off of. So in order to save his life, he broke that bottle and then slit Vinny's throat. So what was Wyatt supposed to do? Just call 911, wait for Vinny to wait for the police and the ambulance to come down, explain what happened, and everything will be okay? Of course he'd leave you for dead. Anyway, basically, I mean, to be honest, if it wasn't for the damn money and then the back and forth nonsense about, oh, you stabbed me and I'm going to make you feel sorry for it. Basically, Vinny's doing to Wyatt what Veronica does to Justin. Basically, you slapped me, so I'm going to make your life a living hell until I've had my fill. That's essentially what Vinny's doing to Wyatt. And it almost seems like Vinny, I'm not going to say cares about Wyatt, but he's very curious / concerned, kind of the same way Mama Rose was when she was talking to Catherine in jail about, how did you turn out the way you are? Like, what do your parents not care? So essentially Wyatt, begs for his life, like, hey, I'll get you $1 million. I don't have it, but my dad does. No, he doesn't. The money belongs to your mother. So it's funny how everybody in this damn show knows that Jim doesn't even have a cent to his name. It's all Catherine. But yeah, Catherine's in jail, but hey, I'll call my dad to call my mom to get permission to get the money for you, and then that'll be it. So basically, $1 million, or Vinny's going to come back and kill Wyatt himself, and it just doesn't make sense, because this just makes the Malones look hella incompetent. It really does. So Wyatt calls Jim and tells him about Vinny. He begs to go to rehab. hey, help me, Dad. And then Jim's like, yeah, today it's help me, Dad. Thank you, Dad. Then next week is going to be a gun to my heart again. What's up? It's like, no. I promise I won't do that again. It's kind of funny because he said he wouldn't, what did Jim say? His head or his heart? But that doesn't mean Wyatt wouldn't shoot him somewhere else. But in any case, stay put, which is what Wyatt should have done in the first place because he wouldn't be in this mess now. Basically, stay put, and I'll try to get the Malones off your back. So then David is going on and on about his feelings for Hannah, and long story short, she calls him out for the bull crap. Basically, the fact that you turned on your charm, it would have worked on anyone else but me, and you can just leave. And then David recalls the first time they met, and she had a what was it? What did he say? Like an ankle or a wrist chain or something? And it had a heart on it. And for some reason, she never wore it again. And Dave was like, people change. And it's like, yeah, it will never work on me. Get the hell out, David. And okay, you're not aroused. You're not turned on at all. No. And then as soon as he leaves, she's like, going to come up in here with that nonsense, sexy bastard. So Hannah does recognize he is attracted. Now, I don't think they're going to get together. I'm not going to lie. That one of the reasons I'm not giving this episode a 10 out of 10, well, a couple of reasons. Number one, Vinny said he was going to go visit the cop that he shot in the head who's still alive in the hospital. That did not happen in the episode. And we know later in the episode he's going to be at the bar when Jim comes by, so he doesn't go visit the cop at all. Then on top of that, I don't care for this Hannah David thing because it came out of nowhere, just like the whole Veronica and Benny thing, that came out of nowhere. Like the one, what was it, when Veronica got Benny out of jail and he apologized, just say, I'm sorry that you're going through all this, when Veronica talked about how Benny's having an affair, David's having an affair, and then they start making out and having sex in the truck. But they did try to plant seeds for this David being attracted to Hannah thing last season, from Veronica having that dream to David kind of semi-defending Hannah whenever Jim would go off. And, you're a strong woman. It just feels completely out of place for me. It honestly, is this supposed to be a build-up for, well, yeah, Hannah, with the power of attorney, holds Veronica's fate in her hands from being able to lift the default on the loans and take everything away from Veronica, and now she could possibly have Veronica's ex-husband. It just seems a bit too much, and I don't really care for it. That's just my opinion. If you like it, by all means, but you honestly can't tell me how random. You can't tell me this isn't super random. All right, so Veronica is at the hospital, and within 10 seconds, she stole the show because she gets a collect call from the state jail, and within a matter of seconds, whoever this is, I'm charging you $500 for every 10 seconds I have to stay on this phone, or every 10 seconds I'm charged on this call. When I tell you and then Catherine like, shut up, bitch. I'm like, right there, I was like, okay, this episode's starting off a bit slow, but then this moment right here, it was like, okay, you got my attention, Tyler Perry, you got my attention. So basically, they have a little back and forth banter, but Catherine demands that Veronica goes over to the jail to visit her at some point today, or she'll make the one phone call to destroy her life. And basically, it's funny because you're Catherine Cryer. You can have any attorney, any lawyer in this country. Why do you want me? Because you're the only one whose life I can destroy with a phone call. So come on down here. And it's like, she hung up on me. She better be glad I can't call her back. Again, I love this. So Celine goes up and is like, hey, they're trying to fire me. And I don't like how pathetic Celine is. It just makes no sense. So basically, Veronica goes in to talk with her two bosses, the one guy and the blonde girl. And basically, Veronica comes up with the line that Dr. Mims was the one who made the complaint to get her fired, which, remember, David suggested, by the way. And Veronica says, oh, wait. She's too modest. She's too shy to say it. And English isn't her first language. So please stand here, be quiet. I'll do the talking. And it's funny because Veronica's assisting her, but she's always going to throw that shade in true Veronica fashion. So basically, she's been sexually harassed by the doctor, and we want to file a $10 million lawsuit as well as a raise. How much are you making? $17 an hour. Wait, $17 an hour? And on the live stream last night, we were talking about this, and it's like, that honestly, $17 an hour is not bad, but it's neither here nor there. But remember, Veronica, being the quote unquote have she is, she can't fathom making only $17 an hour, because typically lawyers make what, like a few $100s an hour. So it's intense. So basically, she tells Celine to stand out of the room, and Veronica has a back and forth saying, we want this settled today. Well, I got to speak to the board. Well, I'll tell you what, you let Celine just work here. Don't bother her at all until you figure this out. But hey, look up my resume, and then she does like a blonde Valley Girl impression. But it's funny because we all know that Veronica has had a thing against blondes ever since Maggie days. So it's just funny to have her do that. It's like, basically, do your research, honey. I'm Veronica Harrington. And once you do your research, I'm serious, and we're going to settle things out. And then she leaves and tells Celine that, don't worry, I'll handle Jim. And Celine's like, well, you told those lies, and I don't want to see people get hurt. And Veronica makes a valid point. So the whore who worked as a maid and screwed around with her boss's husband and has 2 kids is now concerned about telling the truth and not hurting people. So basically, Celine goes about her day, and Veronica leaves. We still don't have any follow-up on Jim, so what's going on with that? All right, so speaking of Jim, we go over to the Malone bar. Vinny's on the phone saying, I want a blonde and then an Asian chick. So he's probably trying to get his freak on. Jim comes in, congratulates him on becoming a new Don, asks for a drink, and basically, hey, I paid you $75,000 to leave my son alone. It was $50,000. No, it was $75,000. Your nephew Mitch came over, said it was, I gave him $75,000, and next thing you know, you're telling me it's $50,000. And, well, your son needs help. Yes, I'm trying to get him the help he needs, but I understand you being upset for stabbing him because he said something else. So, Vincent, I've known you ever since before you can even wipe yourself. What I need you to do is back off my son. And basically, if he doesn't get the $1 million, Wyatt is dead. And that's essentially it. I mean, this was a very good scene. Don't get me wrong. I actually liked the scene a lot, but there wasn't too much to really break down aside from Vinny's just feeling himself. I mean, obviously, it's almost like, in the story of Moses, where you got the Pharaoh who's a harsh ruler, but then Ramses takes over and he's even more cruel than his father. So it's kind of the same thing. It reminds me of like If Loving You Is Wrong, where Julius, I believe was the name, right? Julius. Look, it's been quite a while since I've even thought about the show. Esperanza was dating Julius, and Julius was in line to take over the cartel, but his father knew that he wasn't ready. And, he's like, well, my father's gotten soft in his old age, but I'm not going to be like that. I feel like that's Vinny. He has his whole thing about not being like Mama Rose. Basically, I want to run things a little bit differently now. And as soon as Jim leaves because he wants another drink, but, Vinny kicks him out, he makes a phone call to get Mitch as soon as possible, because I think what's going on here is that Vinny doesn't want to show weakness or, tolerate anyone questioning the Malones. So instead of getting more information from Jim, he shuts it down. He wants to know about the serial numbers on the money that Mitch handed over, the $75,000. So basically, if the numbers come up matching, which they should, because all the money came from the same place, then he can figure out that the $25,000 that was used for Benny was actually paid for by Jim. And let's see. When Hannah goes out the door, that same reporter is standing outside harassing her with questions. And like I said before, I got friends who work in media and news and whatnot, and I hate to see stories about reporters being attacked, but when reporters are kind of in your face like that and won't leave you alone, I kind of see why people go off like that, because she just, wait, were you a terrible mother? You kicked out your daughter at 14? She was sexually harassed? What's going on? And then basically Hannah's being hounded by the reporters. And remember, this is all part of Landon's plan, because what is it? I believe it's all about Hannah calling Candace and Landon using that information to either track where Candace is or stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's essentially what all this is. So after this, we have Jim and David, and I think, Jim goes over to David's house, and, neither one had luck. Jim had no luck with the Malones. David had no luck with Hannah, and it turns out that he really likes her. He's always liked her. Jim mocks her for it. And basically, Jim was actually breaking things down. It's like, I hand over 75,000. Vinny says it's 50. Mitch must have pocketed the money. And now, if it turns out and they find out that Mitch did that, then Mitch is going to be cut off from the family, meaning that his promise for protection is non-valid, or no longer valid, meaning Jim could go after Candace and Benny to get the money back. And David cuts him off saying, Hannah has nothing to do with this. And essentially, he's being overly protective of Hannah. If you go back to season 1, after Benny got arrested, instead of Candace, David did research, and this was after, Hannah prayed with David. Basically, David was vouching for Hannah, saying that Hannah's clean. I looked at her record. She's overdoing a lot of bills. She goes to church every Sunday. It's her daughter who's rogue, who's the one who's trying to con you. Hannah has nothing to do with it. That makes more sense. Currently, it's like David is defending his girlfriend, as Jim put it, and it makes no sense. It just came out of nowhere, because Hannah, I'll save that for the end of the video. So essentially, Jim's like, I'll go after Benny and Candace. They're fair game. I'll leave your girlfriend alone. And then when this fool left the house, praise God, I'm like, Jim, sit your ass down. It was pretty funny. It was really funny. And David said he'd looking at things from Mitch's side, very carefully. So we get another great scene, and this episode was just chock full of great scenes. We got Veronica going over to the jail to talk with Catherine, and to just simplify the scene, I like how Catherine's like $53 million. Oh no, it's $54 million. Why haven't you paid? I decided not to. This literally felt like a conversation between Sally Mae / Navi and a college student like myself, or former college student with a lot of debt. Why aren't you paying? You're going to pay it for me. I'm like, what the fuck? And we break it down. Long story short, Catherine's like, I can make a phone call and ruin your entire life. What about your new house and everything? That's on there? Nope, that's a separate thing. It's not, the current mortgage is not included on the current loans and whatnot. So I'm not technically broke. I'm just not paying my loans. I mean, the rehab facilitation, they're making money. So it's not like I'm broke. I'm just not paying the bills. And essentially, Catherine was doing what I thought she would do. Utilize these loans as a way to wager Veronica helping her out by getting her out of jail. But apparently the DA, George, has gotten to Veronica. She's going to testify and, be all sky free. And basically, Catherine's like, well, guess what? I can't pay your loans anyway because I no longer have power of attorney. The key point of this is the fact that Catherine did not tell Veronica that she gave the power of attorney to Hannah. She just said she no longer has power over her estate. So, you better pay these bills. I'm going to take it all back. And then Veronica tells the guard to take Catherine back to her cell. And we have her calling Don, the accountant, and hey, come over to my house in 1 hour. And based on the preview for next week, that conversation will happen. All right, so we go over to Benny and Candace. Not a bad scene. It was just kind of a slower paced one. Benny's feeling sick, and I'm like, if you don't put a damn mask on, boy. Hannah calls Candace, basically talking about how the reporters are harassing her, and you need to tell the truth because I don't want the narrative being painted that I was a terrible mother who kicked you out. That's not how it happened when you were 14. I told you to stay away from those pimps and whatnot. And I'm like, I love the nods we're getting to season 1, which could honestly hint towards the show ending because we're getting a lot of callbacks to those early scenes of like Hannah telling Candace, so what that pimp got you doing now and stuff like that. But Candace like, fine, I'll see what I can do. And Candace looked really good in this episode too. And Benny puts it together that Landon's the one who has all these reporters going after Hannah, and Landon wants Candace to call Charles. She calls Landon basically to see if they can, have a conversation. Benny is about to go see houses that Rihanna wants to show him, and we go over to Hannah and Jim talking. Oh, actually, let me skip that scene. Oliver calls Landon. I was actually like, oh shit, because no lie, prayers up to Dr. Dre, because I think during the final moments of the episode, I saw it trending that Dr. Dre had a brain aneurysm and was immediately taken to the hospital. So when you have Oliver calling Landon, he's freaking out like, the president-elect said he would be up early in the morning. He told me last night he is making no noise. There's nothing going on in his room. What's going on? And Landon is ominously calm about this, because I'm freaking out. I'm like, Lord, did that masseuse do something to him last night? Remember the masseuse who gave him a happy ending, or did something happen behind the scenes? And I thought that, oh man, because Charles might be dead or something along those lines. But Landon's like, look, I cleared his schedule. He has no meetings. Oliver's like, what am I going to do? People were like, well, Oliver sounded like he was high. I'm like, nah, yeah, it was a weird acting scene, but at the same time, I honestly understand this is how Oliver is. Like, when something isn't 100% correct in his mind, he's going to freak out about it. Not to mention, Landon isn't there. He's the right-hand man for the time being, even though Charles doesn't like him. So if something goes down on his watch, it's going to be a bad look for him. So I can see why Oliver was freaking out, and I did not mind this scene at all. So basically, Candace calls Landon, who's still at the hotel, to come upstairs to see him. Benny offers to help, tell him, he'll step to Landon because he doesn't like how these reporters are going after his mother. I actually commend him for doing that. And Candace's like, nope, I want you to leave. So there's a knock on the door. Benny opens it, and there's somebody with somebody with Landon, and it's Charles. And I'm like, oh shit, he's wearing a similar outfit to the same one he met Candace in at the bar, with the hat and the jacket. So yeah, it seems like Charles slipped out in the middle of the night, because it's kind of funny because he told the masseuse to make him forget about Candace, and now he slipped away and now he's with Candace. And I thought that was a great transition. I did not see it coming. Now let's jump back to the other scene I skipped, where Hannah's talking with Jim at Catherine's house. Jim sits at the table, and she pretty much shuts him down. Like, look, if you keep harassing me, I talked with Catherine, and I can have you evicted from this home. This isn't my home, it's Catherine's, but I can have you evicted from this if you keep going. And basically, Jim is like, look, I need $1 million because you know how dangerous the Malones are. My son is in trouble, and if we don't get $1 million, my son is going to die. Hannah doesn't care. What? She does make a solid point about how, look, your wife made it clear you're not getting any money. So you need to talk with Catherine, and then if she gets to go ahead, you can get the money. I don't disagree with her on that notion, but at the same time, it's like, your kids have his inheritance, which he could use to pay off the Malones to leave him alone. So basically, yes, I get it. Her kids are grown and everything, but basically, Hannah shuts down Jim's offer for $25 million for power of attorney. Jim just kind of lords it over. Oh, you're just a maid. Catherine talks about you behind your back. And Hannah pretty much knows that it's all lies and this is all Jim trying to get to her. Hannah was shutting down Jim and David's. It's kind of interesting because all these methods, like, David's charm, Jim's deception, they used to work so well in the earlier seasons, but now they are just duds because Hannah's able to see through their crap. And like Hannah said, I'm not one of these weak, ditzy women you can just, charm or threaten into submission. No, maybe it would have worked on one of them other girls, but not me. And Hannah's not going to betray Catherine. And, Hannah will kill Jim if he does anything to her children, because Jim threatens to have Candace killed if anything happens to Wyatt. And to be completely fair, I do not see a problem with this because Candace was the one that stole Wyatt's inheritance. I'm not saying Wyatt isn't responsible for his current situation. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is Candace stole the money, and if he had that money, well, to be honest, Wyatt would probably be really dead by now from overdosing. But at the same time, the Malones will be able to back off. But like I said before, I'm curious what's going to happen if Catherine finds out that the Malones had already attempted to kill Wyatt, and hence that's why he's in the hospital right now, because she threatened Mama Rose that if there's a hair harm to my boy, I'm going to come after you. So I just wonder how that's going to play out. But overall, Jim gets up and leaves. And I just think that it's just jacked up that Hannah would have this kind of attitude when she knows her kids are in the wrong, because in the preview for next week, she tells Benny to give the money back because that man's going to come after you with everything. And, Benny's probably like, oh, no, it's all good because the Malones got my back. But he doesn't know that Mitch's protection is fading because his lies are going to come to light soon enough. But overall, this was a pretty solid episode. And like I said, I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 due to Vinny not visiting the guy in the hospital, the officer he shot. The whole David and Hannah thing just feels out of place. Hannah just being uppity when her kids are the one that stole that money. I'll give it a solid, I'll still give this a 9 out of 10 because I did love the shock value of Charles at the end. Thankfully, we had no Jeffrey or Justin or Madison. That's going to be next week. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I hope we continue to get a string of hits like this. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think of A Working Girl? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please like and subscribe. And if you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal, Cash App, or join Patreon for as little as $1 a month.